Obviously, we brought him in early. Let's say hello to former Vanderbilt basketball coach Jan Breda Kolff. Let's get him. Let's get him in the picture there. Billy, how do we do that?
Do I just stay still and you move it over?
I don't know. Oh, there he. Okay.
How you doing?
Good enough. How you doing?
Great. Good to be here. Good to be with some good people here and talk basketball or whatever else may be.
So back when you were a coach, you watched a lot of basketball. You were a big basketball fan. Are you still as big a fan as you used to be?
I guess in some ways, yes, but probably in more ways, no, just because the amount of basketball that you had to watch and stay on top of to be abreast of what you had to do as a coach was, a lot. And then as time wears on and you don't coach anymore, you try to create other interests and other passions. But I still love the game, and I'm much more a college basketball fan and more of the SEC than anything else, but not as much towards pro basketball.
So let me ask this. We're hosting the SEC tournament here beginning on Wednesday, and it appears that there's more teams that could win it than I can ever remember. Jan, as you try to kind of handicap this thing, give me a team that you think's got a great shot to win it all.
Boy, I'll tell you, if you asked me this before the season and now, I'd probably be two different answers. But Texas A&M has they just find a way to win. Alabama has a lot of pressure on them, and you look at Kentucky; they're always a situation, and Vanderbilt and Tennessee both lose key players. In Tennessee's case, I think losing Ziegler is a lot more significant than Vanderbilt losing Robbins. But I would, if I had a forecast right now, I'd say A&M or Vanderbilt would be my top two.
How is A&M doing this? Because you look at the sum of the parts and you just don't see it.
Well, I think that's what you see is the sum of the parts. You don't see the part. And I think, you look at certain teams, there are the main parts of a Brandon Miller or so to speak. But you look at A&M and there's so many different guys that can actually score and do things, but they just have a way to grind it out. They change defenses. They do a lot of good things, and it just seems like they have a great camaraderie. But if you look at how many of those guys are going to go play at the next level, you don't see that. But they do have a sum of all those integral parts that all do different things.
Is there, I guess let me try it this way. Is there a team out there that's a 6 or a 7 seed in a year where the ones feel, so shaky? Is there somebody out there that you're sitting there saying, you know what, if TCU gets on a roll, everybody better pay attention? Is there one of those?
I don't think so. I mean, what's Vanderbilt, 6?
Yeah.
Are they the 6 seed? Yeah, well, then they would be the perfect 6 seed. I don't think a 5th or a 7th or an 8th. Coach Stackhouse has done an absolute incredible job. I mean, to see that team evolve and see Jordan Brown going up and down and Lawrence going up and down and Mayon going up and down and Robbins being hurt a couple different times. But every time there's, putting your finger in the dike, he has done that. And he's used so many players and young freshmen, and they've come in and given valuable minutes. And right now they're playing with a lot of confidence. And I think his confidence on the sideline and the confidence he exudes in the locker room allows guys to take shots and make shots that you kind of say, well, I don't know if I would have taken that shot, but he has confidence. He gives them the freedom. And, they're just in a really good place right now. And, you think they're going to win the first game, and then they got to go up, I think, against Kentucky, which is a tough matchup. But that's the one team that is not in that top 4 that could definitely win it all.
What's your take on Kentucky?
You watch Coach Calipari, and you see so many different times during the season that he is, wow, he's, he's on his last leg. He's not going to make it. He doesn't, make some of the right decisions in people's minds, and they lose a couple of games, or guys get hurt. And all of a sudden, when you think they're down, they bounce back. So he always is there. They're always there. I think that the difficulty they may have is the type of situation that St. Peter's threw at them in the tournament last year, where you throw a different defense late in the game and they have to adjust. And, do they have the right type of chemistry to make those plays, because they want to take big Oscar out of the game. The defense always does. And if you find a way to front them and have weak side help and make those guys not just take wide open shots, but really kind of have to make adjustments throughout that possession. And if you miss a few shots, that seems to be the one that could be their Achilles heel.
So Watson, you all were in school together. I'm trying to think. You're older than Jan, but y'all crossed paths some.
Jan and I go way back. Jan and I go way back. How you doing, my man? I hadn't seen you.
All right. It's great to see you, Watson.
Oh, fantastic. You look great. You look a lot younger than me, so you're doing something right.
No, not at all. I have a great story on you too, but I'll see.
Well, if it's not tellable, don't tell it. But if it's tellable, you can tell it.
Okay. Well, do you want to tell one first?
Yeah. Ball's in your court, bud.
My first year of coaching was at Cornell, and we didn't have a very good team, and I wasn't a very good coach, and we were 7-19, and wow, I mean, that's not the first year you want to be a coach. And Watson's at Rice, and I talked to Watson, and I come down for an interview at Rice and end up being one of the two final candidates. And I had no reason to be a candidate, but I was solely because of Watson. So hats off to you, because I didn't deserve that even chance. And here you are, still smiling today.
Well, and if I had been the AD, you would have been there. I was gone, so I couldn't. But I could call the right people to get you started there. But it's so good to see you, Jen. And talk to us about what you're doing. Where are you? What you doing? Are you still involved with basketball in some way? Just give us an update of what you're doing.
Well, it's a great question. I obviously coached at Vanderbilt, and coached a number of other places and played. And then, we moved. I did clinics and camps in Nashville for 12 years. And then I moved to Florida for the last 5 or 6 years, and kind of, reset and tried to go through a reflection of my life and what I accomplished or what I didn't accomplish. And when it was all said and done, during these reflective moments, I've written 50 chapters on the life skills for kids, mental side of the game, parental influence, and then, what I think coaches do from the intangible, or could do from the intangible side, from lessons learned of my failures more than anything else. And then I try to bring it all together with, can we have a situation where coaches, players, and parents all get together, and it's to create a community. And I think we can. It's just that everybody gets a bad rap in this whole thing, and there's not enough planning to get all those three parts into some kind of triune. So all this writing, I want to come back to Nashville and kind of create a VBK Ministries of sorts, where my life's been transformed during my absence from basketball, but my, actual surrendering my life to Jesus, and to find a way that my peace and my comfort in myself is so much different than ever before. And I'm fulfilled. And now I want to, God's calling is for me. My purpose now is to help others not make the same mistakes as I did, and try to help the players, try to help the coaches, try to help the parents see that the game is much more than basketball, and it's not a finite game. It is over when it's over, but then there's another game. But we want to live in an eternal life and have an infinite life, and I think we can do that And that's my message, and I'm hoping to accomplish that sooner than later.
Jan, that is fantastic. I'm so proud to hear that. We all make our mistakes coming through, and I look back, so just like you, and I'm retired and just stay around athletics here with George, but I think back about all the mistakes that I made, and if there's one thing I wish some way young people would understand that I didn't, and I'd say you'll say the same thing you didn't, is what we could have learned from the people in front of us if we just open our eyes and ears and listen. And I didn't do that. I took off on my own, tried to do everything. I had the answers and pat my chest, and that's great. You want confidence in what you're doing, but man, did I make a lot of mistakes, and within the profession I was in, but also in decisions I made it where I went and different things. And I would do things so much different. I'm glad to hear what you're doing. I think it's fantastic. So are you moving back to Nashville?
Yes. I'm in that process, and I'm hoping to
Fantastic.
Start this sooner than later. And I just think, like you said, to be a professional athlete or to be a collegiate coach, you almost insulate yourself, and you become in a bubble, and you try to think that what to do, and because it's your job or whatever to win. And I think winning is, what's the definition of winning? Obviously, is the amount of gains, but I think developing young men or women for future opportunities is much more. And I think you can do both. And I think now at this situation, I just feel blessed that I will hopefully have this opportunity to speak on this situation. And I think there's just so many lessons to be learned. And, I see some great stories of people, and it's an exciting period of time in my life. And I remember that after games of some games, I poured all my heart and soul, as you did, on the sidelines, getting ready for that game, preparing, and then actually coaching that game for 2 hours. And the game's over, and you're like sweat all the way down to your socks.
Yeah.
And you feel like I'm exasperated. And I did it alone. I did it by myself. And now when I talk, act, and be around people, now I have the Holy Spirit in me, and I'm not tired. I'm not worn out. I'm not sweating. And, I'm calm, I'm peaceful. And I think it's a great place to be. And I'm so happy that I am right now.
Well, Jan, fantastic. And if I can help, and I'm sure George will say the same thing.
Absolutely.
If we can help you in any way as you get to Nashville or to be a part of helping you, let us know. One more question, George, if I can, to ask
Sure.
Jan. Jan, one of the things that really bothers me right now is I'm not as the NIL doesn't bother me. They'll find a way to get that under control. But this transfer portal thing really bothers me. And when you and I were coming up through, you would start with kids, you bring them in as freshmen. You want to teach them right and wrong. You want to teach them how to win. You want to teach them how to act. You want to teach them how to compete. You keep them for 4 or 5 years, and you feel really good when they leave, no matter how many games you've won or not. And now these kids, they come in, they don't get to start as freshmen. They're gone immediately. One has a good year, and he's gone somewhere else and moved up the ladder or whatever. And I just don't think these kids are going to get taught the right things with them jumping around as quick as they are. Are you as concerned about that as I am, or do you handle that better than I do?
No, I think you're exactly right. I think, one of the things that, when you go through life skills for younger kids, they now call it student athlete development for older kids. There's a lot of things that they have to develop just in the classroom and on the court. And they have to deal with adversity. They have to deal with, pushing through, determination, perseverance, being a better teammate. All these things are going to make them who they are, and as a parent and in the workforce when they finish playing. And if they shortchange that or take a shortcut past that, they're going to have problems later, because if you quit one school and you go to another and quit another one, all of a sudden quitting is not the answer, and that becomes your identity, and your identity has to be the best you can be at whatever you're doing, and then do it for as long as you can and move to the next one. But this transfer portal is such an easy out, and then as coaches, you're trying to coach a guy that if you get on him or you don't play him enough, then he's a candidate to go somewhere else. So that's not, a coach should be in that position where he can help develop you, and if he's doing it differently because he's afraid to lose you, then that's not the best. That's not the optimum coaching atmosphere.
Yeah, I'm with you, and it scares me to death. And I hope there's some way they get this under control, because the coach doesn't have a chance to teach these kids those things. They run from the number one is competition, and to be able to fight through that and earn something. And now you run from it. It scares me to death. But George, back to you, and Jan, can't wait to get you back. Congratulations on what you're doing. I think it's absolutely fantastic.
Amen.
Pulling for you 100%. Can't wait to get you back to Nashville.
Thank you very much, Watson. Thank you, George. You guys are great, and I'll be listening to you, and hopefully I'll be back on the show again with you.
Oh, absolutely. By the way, Jan, thank you for not admitting that part of the reason you were exasperated after games was you had to do a post game with me.
No, that was the highlight. That was the highlight. You were great. Win or lose, you just had a way of, setting the scene and not, putting it to like, well, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? You were incredible, and you've been a friend when I coached and since all these other years since.
I can't wait to have lunch with you. Tell Bargatze to get this set up now.
I'm ready. Well,
I am too. I'll be talking to you. Jan, thank you. Incredible interview.
Thank you, buddy.